to go over to my profile. All right, we are live on Substack.
We are live.
Yay!
We don't have anyone currently join us yet, so
That's all right.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I pulled up chat on Substack for just so
When I come
just
up
like an
for
interact as
air,
well.
Lisa Joy, hello.
Hello.
Oh nice. Hi Lisa.
I love that name. When I come up for air.
Yeah.
Oh,
Going in the tattoo.
Lisa, would you like to come on with us? We were supposed to have Nick Paro and Shane Urak with us, and they stepped down today.
Yeah, they stepped down from the conversation, but
Okay,
they're
hockey.
still with us. If they're in chat, if they're watching, if they're lurking along, and we're always helpful for that. I know this last few days over the weekend has been insane for so many of us, and
Yeah.
where as you're here with us, whether you're on call or in chat or just listening along, just doing the dishes, that's what we're all here for, honestly.
Yep.
yeah.
All right, yeah, let's get Lisa
Yes.
Joy in. She's
Sweet.
willing to come in, so I will send
She's
you
fun.
the invite.
I go into her bedtime, not on the porch.
Yeah,
or
that's
before
a fun
bedtime.
one for sure.
Yeah. That's a good mental health outlet for me.
Yep.
One of them.
That's sweet. Crocheting emotional support chickens at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa, and I know you probably will have to bail a little bit early because you have your gig tonight, but it's on the way. Check your DM. I just sent you the invite to StreamYard.
Hey, Madam Power. I have the chats running on my iPad, so
Okay.
closer to my face, I can read it better.
Yeah. Get Lisa Joy up here, and then we'll get going.
Hey, Miss Hughes.
Hello.
Hey, Yus.
Do you want to do the disclaimer? Take.
How are we doing in terms of? So we have 9 people on Substack. All right. We're ready for the disclaimer. Yes. Quick disclaimer for everyone. Well, first off, welcome to Mind Haven. This is our weekly podcast on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. We are focused on mental health. Hello, Lisa Joy. Thank you for joining us. We are here every week, mainly just to discuss about our experiences in terms of mental health and how that interacts and respects to the world as a whole. We start with our own experiences and kind of just delve into everything all at once, as mental health often do. Quick disclaimer though, none of us here are mental health professionals. If you have something going on, we highly recommend you look towards a source and find some more professional help. We're just here talking about our own experiences and what works for us, as well as our own experiences with the system as a whole. We're not professionals. We're not psychologists, psychiatrists, anything of that. And with that in mind, I think we're ready to get started.
All right. So tonight, and we had planned this previously to what happened yesterday in Minneapolis. So we're going to kind of talk about that and how we can keep our mental health healthy in light of all of the craziness that's happening around us. We were going to have Nick Paro and Shane Urak on with us, but they are both mentally exhausted dealing with their shows and stuff. So
Yeah, they were online a lot yesterday.
Yeah.
Firebrand. I mean, with Shane, it was a Firebrand project. I mean, they're a very poignant, very important independent newscaster right now. Go ahead and just subscribe to them when you get a chance, of course. But yeah, this was a heavy one for anyone watching, anyone there.
And also, I am new to StreamYard, and I haven't figured out how to add everyone's brand in. branding their little QR codes. So if you want to just hop in the chat, or I can, or Nero, if you can look
I
up
don't know how to do
everyone.
it.
Huh?
I don't know how
No,
to do the
no,
QR
just to
code.
look up there and you can copy and paste their Substack info.
Oh, into the chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my Substack and my handle is Tigology on Substack, Twitch, and YouTube. There we go. All right, yeah.
I'll have to exit the chat to do that. Or
Tigology
no,
and,
there's another way
and
to do this.
Substack, Twitch, and YouTube. I really my background is across the board, just trying to figure out how to save the world by taking it over, fixing everything that's wrong with it, and at the risk of being ridiculous, some thoughts and ways we can go about doing that.
Yeah.
Being human is hard. No question about
So, since you're in Canada, and we appreciate you being here with us in solidarity, do you have any? What are your thoughts on what us Americans are dealing with, and as an outsider, how do you look in and I mean, it has to affect you guys too.
Oh, for sure. I think that, well, what happened was really tragic, and it's really hard to see your neighbors and I feel like this online community is kind of like, it's not like before you would just read the paper, and like now it's kind of a global world, and yeah, it's really worrisome. And I've been on Substack for about a year, so it's you can't just step away and pretend nothing happened, even though like I'm living near the military base, nothing much has changed. It's I mean, the first news, I mean, like local news, it was that, like what happened in Minnesota and how people are being basically, I mean,
Executed,
I find that it's almost like they're taking their own people hostages, like the whole population with the whole. I mean, for me, it is authoritarianism. I mean, I don't see it as anything else. So yeah, it's
I agree.
it's really hard to watch, and it's worrisome. Yeah, it's hard not to be worried about that, even if
it's jarring because it's not something you would typically see broadcasted in the United States. I think like here in the States, like here in the Western Hemisphere as a whole, a lot of so many people have grown up with this preconceived notion that the U.S. are kind of the world's superheroes. We're the world's good guys. That we're the one who like goes in and solves everything. But I think that moment was pretty sobering for a lot of people worldwide, because at that moment we realized that the United States is no different from any other established nation, any other culture, or any other empire in history. Empires, oceans rise, empires fall. And I think we're at a point in history where it feels like the end of the world. And especially because like I'm kind of elder Gen Z, I've been through the ringer a lot more than most people my age. But even then, like having that perspective, seeing that this is kind of the world, this is kind of the way things have always been in the United States, but it's gotten to the point where it's the people responsible for these kinds of violence just can't be bothered to market it anymore. It's always been like this. Yeah. And regardless of whether it was that brilliant man, that brilliant nurse, Alex, Renee Good, George Floyd, or otherwise, it's always this is something that we've been dealing with in the United States for a very, very long time. And I think it's getting to the point where we're just looking back and seeing, yeah, this is where we've been and this is where we're going, and we have to acknowledge that this is not just a serious problem, but we have to acknowledge the shit show that we're in right now.
Yeah.
And it's becoming harder and harder to deny at this point.
Yeah, you're right, Tig. But the way I see it is like, yes, we have been dealing with racism and, with the George Floyd and other situations in the past, but this seems a little bit more severe. These aren't just your average police officers. These are guys that aren't trained or equipped mentally. They are soldiers for Trump. And they are going in, and anyone who looks at them wrong or just, they're told to just kill,
They're a danger to society.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much anyone who wasn't qualified enough to be a police officer to be in the military. It's very
Well, when
much
you go to
straight
YouTube
white
and they're
supremacist,
advertising join ICE,
Yeah.
Well, you also have,
The bonuses.
well, yeah, there's the bonuses. There's bonuses for every person they apprehend, even if they aren't
Sushi?
someone they keep.
Yep.
All they have to
Mhm.
do is
Yeah.
apprehend somebody and they get extra pay.
Yep.
There is also the fact that
Oh no.
I don't understand why there have not been sanctions yet, but I've been obsessed with Nazi Germany, and especially the 30s, ever since Trump took office. In fact, ever since he started campaigning. And I was watching it again today, and I was watching it's a documentary called Hitler's Propaganda Machine. And I see appeasement by the international groups. They're like, okay, let's play him along and give him as little as possible while keeping him happy. And that's exactly what they did to Hitler.
Hmm.
And Hitler just kept, pushing people along. And then he went ahead and invaded Poland, and we had World War II. And I even wrote an article yesterday saying, hey, international community, can't you do sanctions or something at this point? How many extrajudicial killings do there have to be before you guys decide what's going on here is a real problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's honestly the crazy thing, because that's honestly what makes this situation so poignant and so intense, is because unlike Nazi Germany, the United States has built up a lot
can't
of
hear
military
Tig.
on the technological. Oh yeah, you can hear me.
Either.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
guys can hear me. Okay.
Okay. I
Yeah,
couldn't
okay.
hear Lisa Joy earlier, so
Oh
Can you
yeah.
hear me now?
yes.
Yeah, we can hear. Okay, we're good.
Alright.
What was I saying? I think we're in a much more perilous situation right now, because unlike Nazi Germany, we have a massive military industrial complex. Our infrastructure is very heavily militarized. Even the quote unquote non-lethal means, or like non-lethal like crowd control means, are basically just designed to be as non-lethal at least 75% of the time. That's in order to classify a device, whether it be a taser or tear gas or pepper spray, as
Oh,
like
cool
non-lethal.
misuse.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
my StreamYard was interfering.
Yeah,
I
it's,
shut it off.
Okay. Yeah, that might
Yeah.
be it's battling each other.
Yeah, it might have
Yeah.
been. But what was I saying earlier? So I think we're in a bit of a very dangerous situation. It's like that's why sanctions are not going to. That's why Europe specifically is hesitant on sanctions. I mean, Putin and China
everything
and
good?
Xi Jinping, they're
still
just
not
sitting
hearing
back and
Tig.
watching all this go down. But this is what they were waiting for this entire time, for the United States to kind of implode on itself. But even then, it's going to implode, but it's not going to be it's not going to be as seamless or as not as impactful as it was with the 1930s Nazi Germany. Simply because our military is massive, our infrastructure is primarily designated for the military, and and regardless of whether our energy sectors are able to keep up with it, we have the means to do a serious amount of damage before any of it collapses completely. It's not going to be a standard implosion. It's not going to be an all collapse like it was in Nazi Germany. It's going to be a supernova kind of empire collapse that we haven't seen possibly in a very long time, possibly ever, honestly.
Ever. Yeah.
Ever.
Here's the thing, everyone used to look up to the United States. We discussed that a little bit earlier, I think, touched on that.
Yeah.
And right now we are the laughing stock of the world. Everyone hates us. And I truly believe that Trump would rather go down in history as the one who destroyed the world. He's an ego maniac, and he's causing all kinds of problems. So
Yeah.
I think he really doesn't care, like, because right away I agreed with what Jasmine Crockett said when Jack Smith was testifying, that first he believed he ran for president to just stay out of jail, because when you're, right away, I mean, they couldn't, just because he was presenting his candidacy, I believe, then he would become off limits, And I was like, when I'd seen what happened with January 6th, and then later on when he started, like, he was like, what, a year earlier, like letting, and I look at my husband, I said, you know what, he's doing this because he doesn't want to go to jail, because what he did was criminal.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, it was foreseeable, but it's just, but I guess, I don't know, it's just from an external point of view, it's kind of, I don't want to say easier, but we're not into the MAGA cult, and we're not like influenced by, especially where I live in the province of Quebec, we're not that influenced by religion either, because we're very like secular. Is that it? Like, a society that you don't mix religion and state authority. You don't. You have the word in French called laïcité, which means secular. So seeing that, and mixing the whole MAGA movement with white Christians, and it was scary as hell. So
yeah, it's scary as hell, because even from an overseas perspective, the reason we have such a cult problem, a religious fundamentalist problem here in the United States, is also it goes back to before our founding as a country. Pretty much the Puritans, those fundamentalists, the witch burners, essentially, during the Enlightenment in Europe, they couldn't deal with them either. So they put them on a boat that was so decrepit, not even the slave traders were willing to touch. It was a boat called the Mayflower. Get this, and they were not supposed to They were not supposed to survive the journey across the Atlantic, let alone establish their own country. But even then, that's kind of where we have in terms of foundation. And even then, look at the founding fathers and everything. There was a very much bringing in ideas from the Enlightenment, bringing in ideas from overseas, especially when the Enlightenment, especially with the more intellectual side with the French Revolution across the board. But they really just pasted on a separation of church and state and a secular functioning government on top of a very, very poignant, very malignant core of our founding that kind of just went ignored for all this time. And it went ignored, and because it was underestimated and ignored, I mean, you could have this entire worldview, and the United States was able to market themselves well, primarily because they were able to, oh no, we're not going to disavow the crazies, where everybody is allowed to have their opinions, therefore every opinion is valid, and bad ideas are not something to criminalize. So you can't attack someone for their beliefs or whatever the hell. And that's kind of this idea that if you have ideas, are just that, they're not tangible things you can put into action, when that's simply not the case. And that is a very puritanical mindset that's kind of flowed into this larger worldview that people across the United States have a hard time letting go of.
Yeah.
At this point, the only way to stop a bad idea is with a good idea, at the risk of purposely bastardizing that whole slogan from the NRA. But that's honestly, it's true. And I think with everything going on, there's what we're trying to negotiate, comes a point where you can't negotiate with zealotry. And I think this small malignant portion of the population has been able to gain so much, not just favor, because their numbers are really not that strong. Their numbers are very, very small, but they're loud, and not only that, but they're also pretty motivated and ambition oriented. If you want to take over the world, you can figure out a way to do it. And I think that kind of determination and perseverance, something that I've really tried to practice throughout my life, was something not really taken seriously by the left, or even the secular part of the rest of the world. It was a heavily underestimated thing. We took sanity for granted. We took sanity for granted. We took our own humanity. So many of us took our own humanity for granted. And that's honestly why even among progressives on the left, you have this dark world kind of mentality. You have these spots of bigotry and ableism, especially towards I'm on the opposite spectrum myself. You have these moments where and that's how you have those divide and conquer campaigns, and that's how you have this like that's how you have all this infighting going across the board, and that's why nobody can agree on how to actually fix this because we're too busy going at each other's throats. And that was the zealots whole point. That was the whole plan from the start.
Yeah.
And it frustrated me for a while until I realized that everyone there comes a point where if you're living in this current reality and you're living in this current world, you have a choice to make. You can do everything in your power to make things better for the vast amount of people possible, or you can be right. You can win an argument, or you can win the day. You can't have it both ways. Not always. And winning the day is a lot harder to do than winning an argument. And that's something a lot of people in my generation have a hard time grappling with.
Yeah.
And
Beth,
it's
are you able to hear us yet? Are you good?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Nero.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, good.
Shoot.
Sometimes it's the browser. Oh,
yeah.
oh,
Oh, we lost Beth.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure what's going on tonight.
a similar thing happened on the Daily Whatever show. A little bit
Yeah.
was glitchy the more people there were on.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I just dropped my phone. That's all.
I think, and then Beth went in and out. All right.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for her to join back in, but
Even
What
so,
talking about
yeah. So the going back to our original prompt, essentially, with all of this in mind, it really brings to a depression. Like you can do everything in your power to make that to win the day, essentially. And the question after that is, how do we do that? Not just what is the plan, not just what do we want to accomplish, but what steps, assets, resources, and connections do we need to make in order to get there? What's the plan, essentially? And that honestly revolves, especially when things get hard, because I knew anytime you're up against a fanatical, fascist, authoritarian regime, this is something a lot of people weren't prepared for, is that people are going to die. There is no such thing as a good or great war or great battle or anything like that. And I think this kind of romanticizing of protesting that I grew up seeing those cartoons of the civil rights movement in elementary school, and then the reality hits you, and it's like, wait, we're all sitting together in solidarity. Why are they trying to attack us? Why are they beating us? They didn't show you the actual footage of what went down for the civil rights movement. And that's honestly partly why the civil rights movement worked, because at the time, at the time media was kind of standardized. It wasn't heavily compartmentalized. Even prior to the internet, you didn't have a lot of corporate interference with television. You had like 3 channels, and that was it. And the FCC was kind of good at cracking down on people who want to start their own TV channels and spout BS and whatnot. But even so, I think it's something that a lot of people aren't used to seeing. It's something nobody should ever get used to seeing. I mean, like my background and like with medical abuse, I've been in it. I would force back and forth with psych wards for years, mainly because of what happened with what my parents tried to do to me. But even so, there's only when you see someone like hanging from the ceiling or hanging in their dorm room, it sticks with you. It's something you can never really change. You never really can regain that kind of innocence back. And I think this backlash from even like from across the board is like, no, you are attacking you this can't be happening, is that loss of innocence. It's that loss of innocence, and that can screw with your head. And the question is, how do you find the will to keep going while also taking hands back, rehabilitating, licking your wounds, and still finding the courage to get back out there and do what you need to do. It's a push and pull, and that's kind of something that was long forgotten of how like traditional like resistances were actually fought. It wasn't just 30 minutes and call it a day. It wasn't one rally and call it a day. This is not going to be short. It's not going to be sweet. Not in the slightest.
We're just in the very beginning of a new revolution. Beth, do you have anything to add?
I think it was pretty covered. I think for as far as mental health goes with this, I found myself this weekend just shattered. There is no other word. It's destroyed. It destroyed me a week ago or
Yep.
so and prior, but this, I think the continuation and the brazenness of this
Mm-hmm.
was shocking, combined with the absolute lies from our own government.
Yes.
Our own government. And so how do we protect that? Well, you can't.
No.
You can't
Well,
protect
yeah.
yourself from this. You can find tools, but it's everywhere. It's on every news station, every site that you're on social media. What you can do is find those moments. Your group. You know, I'm fortunate that we have our Monday chronically yelling out. I'm fortunate that we're trying to
tomorrow.
do so. I'm trying to bring. I know. I'm summoning some everything within me to do it, but know that it's important because I would just like to crawl under the bed.
Yeah.
And I just can't believe that this is where we're at. I can't believe we can't seem to stop this. And I feel like we're at a precipice where we need to do something.
Yes.
We have to for our own survival. For me, I'm just going to keep doing the meditations, even though I am not watching the game right now. Go Seahawks. Trying to keep a little normalcy is really important. Grounding, really noticing your body and how I noticed, and my husband noticed this last week, I developed a shake in my right arm or my hand. Just from the stress. And so now when I get stressed, I'm like, I said, you notice this? He goes, yeah, I did notice. And every time there's stressful news, I'm reacting to it. And I think for anybody who has been in fight or flight mode their entire life, this is extra. This is extra. So I don't know what you think about that.
No, that was beautifully stated. You know, for myself, I've just been trying to keep super, super busy. I'm actually like at the point where my life is almost unsustainable because I have like 2 jobs. I do the adaptive sports on the weekends, and then all week I'm trying to collaborate with Teganero on our next live on Sundays. So I am just constantly like keeping my brain focused on other things so that it doesn't take me down into a spiral.
That's honestly something that I've kind of been grappling with as well. Like I've thrown myself into projects, thrown myself into work. Like when I was homeless for 3 years during that period when I was emancipating myself from my parents, I couldn't stop moving. Not because like when you're homeless in New York, there's really no place for you to sit and just chill out outside of either a public library, a Barnes and Nobles, or even just the sidewalk. I mean, there's really you find when you have no work to do, when there's no school, and it's the weekend and everything's out or everything's closed. It's Sunday. That's something you have to really grapple with when you're homeless because there's really no place for you to just be and chill. And that was something that really screwed me as well because I had to keep moving. And so I put a good chunk of my funds, a good chunk of money that I did make into Metro cards and bus passes, and I just went everywhere with I no longer keep the car that I stole. But even so, it was you just had to keep moving. I had to keep moving physically. I had to keep running. I went from state park to state park all over New York State, and I just kept moving. And that was the only thing I can keep my mind off the fact that I felt awful. But it was for the first time in my life. I genuinely, yeah, your mic is on, Neuro, actually.
Okay.
For the first time, I actually felt I felt human for the first time. It was a weird kind of thing because when you're constantly moving and not staying still long enough to feel the impact of what you're running from, it was
We have a disclaimer in the beginning. We talk about how we navigate our own mental health.
Yeah.
Neuro, who are you talking to?
Okay, what's
Someone in the
going on in the chat is unacceptable. It's unacceptable, Kat. This is not the place. It's not the time. This is really self-serving, and I can't believe that you would be doing this.
Yeah. Wow, Kat.
I'm gonna leave here. I'm really sorry. There's a bit of background. So I suggest you also exit.
Oh, it's okay. I can stay with the guys and continue on the subject, and this can be
Good.
dealt not in public.
I can't deal with it right now. There's
Okay,
too much
Beth.
going on. I'm
All
so
right, Beth.
sorry, guys.
Oh, you're
I
good.
appreciate
Take care
you.
of yourself. Love you, man. Thank you.
Bye, Beth.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
I'll check in with you later.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to the chat because I've got it on over on this side. So,
Yeah, well, let's just say that this is not an issue that I wish to address on the public space,
got you.
and yeah, it's that's it.
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from. Nero, thoughts, feelings.
Well, this is a great opportunity for this. There was this idea that I saw a few years ago in the first Trump administration where people were talking about acquire in the metaphorical sense, right? We have to acknowledge our own limitations and be okay with them, not internalize them. And part of that being the limitation is we have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to shit. Excuse my language. And the machine keeps going, regardless of what our needs and limitations are. But that's why we have acquired, why we working together as a network, as a collective, works against the machine because it allows the individual to take breaks while the rest go on. And then you can come back in when you got your breath back, basically.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like it's a push and pull essentially, and knowing when you need to rest and rehabilitate, and knowing when you can move and keep going. And that's honestly where I was going with the original story. It's like if you keep moving and keep going 300% constantly, there gets to a point where you don't have the energy to move anymore. And in that situation, that was pretty dangerous for me. So knowing when I needed to take breaks regardless, and finding safe places and people I could do that with was really, really important regardless of what situation you're in. I think in terms of mental health that I think there's been a lot of like woohoo and wellness air about the whole field, because ultimately the whole purpose of the human brain is to maintain your survival. The human brain has one purpose, and is to ensure the survival of the rest of you. It's to keep you alive. And so when your brain is screaming, when you have those twitches, and when you have the flood of cortisol and all of that, and you need your body is telling you, and you're by default, like a certain part of your brain that you're not fully in touch with, is telling you need to chill and take a break. Learning to not push through anyway, and just giving myself the chance to listen to that and rest when I need to will actually, it's something I've really been trying to struggle with as well, because when you live your entire life in survival mode, it's okay to take a minute and listen to your body when it's screaming for just no more. That is the important part of this, honestly. It's just learning to be able to just take a step back when you need to, as well as not letting that fear of that crash keep you from going out and doing it again the next day. But
no, exactly. I agree with what you're saying, because it's so difficult you're saying like fear, sometimes stops us from moving forward, right? Because I'm seeing, like Lisa is saying, when something triggers you, then it's kind of like you get so emotional, and then it's harder to think rationally, right?
Yeah.
So, and I find that when you're afraid, which is, I think, what a lot of people feel right now. Gosh, I'm not in Minnesota and I'm scared. I mean, I can't imagine in their situation. There must be like living on edge, it's like, you're like, yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
I hear what you're saying.
It's fair, and that's honestly kind of the point of the opposition. It's to instill fear on the hope that we will be frozen and paralyzed and deterred from acting in our best interest. Essentially, it's kind of a paradoxical fallacy. Honestly, it's like it's kind of a weird one, because like this is something I was talking with my therapist for a while about, is that if like an adult, you don't take, like, if you like have an adult that's struggling with a certain behavior, it's like, oh, I didn't get that, I didn't walk in to get the promotion, I had a bit of a panic attack, I didn't get in the elevator, I just sat in the hallway and then went home afterward, I was scared, I couldn't move. The therapist is not going to tell you, give me your phone, no dessert for a week until you go in that elevator and get that promotion next time. You don't, that's not how that works. Essentially, that's not how that works. But but yet we do that to kids all the time. And I think there's actually a pretty a good few studies about this, about how our upbringings and how our childhoods and how the way we were treated and how that kind of wires our brain in a certain way to be susceptible to authoritarian or fascist kind of ideology, or even like those kinds of tactics to instill fear for the sake of deterrence. It's like, why do we like? It's like, I'm going to hit you 1,000 times and you're going to stay down. But if you don't stay down, they look at you like you're crazy. But that's kind of odd to me, honestly. What scares a bully, what scares an abuser, what scares someone who craves control over all else and was willing to use violence and fear and pain and suffering to do that, to instill that violence, to instill that kind of control, is when you stand up, when you feel fear and you stand up anyway, there's nothing that scares them more.
Yeah.
It's this idea of not like, of course you're going to feel what you're feeling. Of course you feel the fear. Of course you feel that terror. That's kind of the whole point. Of course it hurts. It's not a matter of pretending that it doesn't hurt or pretending that you don't care what anybody thinks of you. It's knowing that you have that this kind of impact does have an effect on you and choosing to move forward anyway. That's kind of what courage is, in my view. It's feeling fear, but moving forward anyway.
Yeah, that is a very definition of courage. It's not the absence of fear, but in spite of it.
Yeah.
In spite of it.
Acting on that fear and letting it, do the opposite.
Yeah, and this whole idea of, and this honestly goes back to this whole Christo-fascist kind of mentality, this worldview that you have to obey or you will be hurt, and you will be hurt until you learn to obey, and that's not how this works. And I think this shifting of that mentality is why we're seeing. I don't think there's a word going around. It's called the extinction burst of that kind of mentality, of that worldview, that if you hit someone enough that they will comply. There is an extinction. There's kind of like a last ditch effort to maintain that level of control, and it's failing. And that's why they're escalating, and that's why and that's why ICE is kind of cracking down. And it's all because they know that, I mean, the regime knows that it's the end is near. It's not quite now, but it is very much
The scariest people are the ones you can't control.
Yeah, and if you're like leaving an abusive relationship or abusive situation, the most dangerous time in a survivor's life is when you decide to leave, and when you decide to look back, and when that transitionary period between finding safety and leaving, that is the most dangerous time. And we're seeing that now, because honestly, I think there was a massive like influx of there was actually with Savannah's law that was recently passed in Texas and Georgia. I think it was either Georgia or Texas. I'm not entirely sure. They made a sex offender type registry for people who have a long history of domestic violence charges or domestic violence reports. They made a registry for DV abusers. And that's honestly pretty smart. And it's smart enough to the point where from that registry that's currently being underway alone, they were able to isolate a lot of ICE officers and a lot of people that joined ICE. And that tells you something.
Like, you know what you're saying about contacting the way that the contacts are being made for ICE. There was actually a post. Is it today? Yeah, it's today. ICE nodding to far-right extremists in recruitment post, expert says, and this is in our news, like Canadian news, you know how they're basically using they're on a hiring spree, but they're really trying to use tactics. You know, you really, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's obvious, but it doesn't, you know, they're hiring people that are likely to escalate this thing. And anyways, I can put the link in the chat if you want.
Yeah, that would be great.
But to observers of the far right, that's it. And to members of the far right themselves, they say that it's recognizable, you know? So, I mean, that enforcement is not really to just, it is to incite fear, you know, and to, and for me, that's, anyways, I just find it so damning, and it's the least we can do to be here and, you know, like say out loud, like cry out loud, say that's not acceptable. You guys won't stand up for that. Like, so I'm just gonna go back in the chat and find the link. There we go. There we go.
Natasha's here. Hey, Natasha, I caught you the other night with Lisa. We are the Third Estate. We'd like to have you on sometime if you want to join us.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, and ultimately, it's like when we're kind of in a similar. Parkrose Permaculture actually says something very similar about this. Is that when you're leaving that narcissistic, abusive partner, or your abusive husband or abusive boyfriend, whatever it may be, like that's when things start to escalate more and more and more. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now, because ICE is basically populated by every kind of guy that falls into that category.
Absolutely. I got out of a narcissistic relationship, and it's kind of, I mean, this whole atmosphere is reminding me of that. You know, it's unsettling.
Yeah, it's unsettling because it's so blatant. And at this point, I think they're just heavily
they're not even trying
doubling down. They're not even trying to hide it. Yeah, they're not even bothering to market at this point. Cat's out of the bag. And the cat's out of the bag, and they're not even like, you know what, screw it. We're not even going to try to market this as palatable anymore. We're just going to double down on the hurt, double down on the cruelty. And that will show them, and that will teach them a lesson. But it never does. And that's honestly what gives me hope. And even in terms of like my work, like I'm trying to, like, as the generation is going to inherit all of this, and just try to, my prerogative is trying to like work on the back end and see what systems can I implement, not just for myself, but for my friends, my found family, my neighbors across the board. Like, how can I make things better for the vast majority amount of people possible? Not just like people on the front lines, not just protests, but also like food banks, infrastructure, because there's all the whole economic facet in this as well. I mean, I know things are different in Canada. I know things are different abroad, but it's like, why can't I just get out of work? But that's kind of where we are right now. They did this to make sure that we couldn't. In the mid 80s or so, the 70s and 80s, there was these massive crackdowns of the Black Panthers and then the mafia and the mob and everything. They marketed that as the war on drugs, when really they just targeted the back of house operations that were driving these union strikes and driving these movements forward. Because anytime you have a massive general strike, you need a group of people that have small businesses and have some kind of say over the community, some kind of leeway, some degree of social capital to make sure that people can still have the resources they need to survive. Rent is paid, mortgage is taken care of, that your neighbors are taken care of, and you still be able to keep a roof over your head and still be able to do the general strike. There was that chain, that tether, between being able to work and being able to survive is a very recent one. And that was done probably because of these crackdowns in the 80s and 90s. And I think it was this, I can go on and on about that whole history, but the point is, what we need right now is we need a lot more business savvy. We need more people who want to act like, who know how to be proper mafiosos.
Yeah.
To not only just that, but we also need this works on the local level. And if you're looking for something to like, what can I do? You can organize. If you feel safe enough to arm yourself, you can do that. If you feel safe enough to go out and protest, if you're on the vulnerable side, but also it's not just the front of house. We need people to start their own grocery stores, to are able to work at food banks and food pantries and all this across the board, not just donations, not tangible things you could buy, but there's also the the business side of things. Fight capitalism with capitalism. And if you're capitalism doesn't give a shit essentially. So if you fight capitalism with capitalism, and it works, and they're relying on the assumption that we don't know how to work any of the things that they're using to weaponize against us. And that's the only way we're going to have a very successful general strike across the nation. And that's the only way we're really going to have to make this massive impact, is if we can be self-sufficient on our own without the need from without the need from their backing. Essentially, we just cut ties with them entirely in more ways than one. And I know that's a big ask, but
we totally need to hit them where it hurts. They're but the problem is across the board. How do you get that message out to everyone that is struggling just to survive, like, working multiple jobs and having to deal with food banks just to eat because they still can't afford to eat,
Yeah.
And
it's hard to get that message out, but if you have an idea, you start it. You look into your local black book, local commercial real estate. You can, if you don't have the capital, you figure out a way to make it work. Food carts are still a thing across the country. You can start your own food cart. You can do that. You can start a food truck. There are so many ways you can work locally, even if it's not as grand and it's not as impactful. It doesn't seem impactful, but something I put in a note recently is that in the same way that failures and lack of action tend to compound, compassion, small bits of action compound as well. I mean, a grasshopper on its own is it's small. It seems insignificant. You can swish it with your fingers. But a group of grasshoppers together in one place, the Old Testament refers to that as a plague. Small things compound. So it's something. And in terms of like just trying to take care of yourself and not just focusing on yourself, but being shitty together, finding people you can be vulnerable with. And just, it's like, honestly, my friend from the Bronx comes over to my place sometimes, and we'll just sit and watch anime, and we'll just kind of just snuggle and cry, and that's it. And that's just it.
Yeah.
And that's something that really we have, and that's something we need a lot more of. I think there's been this terror that we have this terror of being perceived, and we have this terror of seeming weakness or throwing a pity party, or if it's not being that bad, or feeling sorry for ourselves. And of course, you can flow in the whole ableism against autism into that as well. I've heard the whole thing, but again, it's a shame towards being human. It's a shame it's this intense shame of being human. It's not guilt, it's shame. Like, shame tells you I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the core difference we need to think of right here. And there is a lot of things we can do, but also we can do it together. It seems like we're all alone in this, but we aren't. And it's forums like this that allow us to come together and grieve. And
that's the beautiful thing about Substack and the community that we're building here. It's wonderful to have people to lean on and talk to, and people of like minds. We can agree to disagree on some things, but it's not like a full out brawl. Like, no, you're wrong.
And even if you're like across massive distances, like, video games are a thing, people. Like, co-op video games are a thing. You can start a Twitch and just live stream your content, and just people that's still being social. You can still be social.
Absolutely. Nero, did you want to say something?
I got derailed.
Oh, okay. Looks like we have a good crowd today.
Yeah, Lisa Joyce, she says your brain does part of its processing in communication, and that is so true.
Yes. Yeah.
And are just like better with people. It's because we have that connection. You have that way to verbalize, or if you're writing to each other, write out your thoughts, and somebody to give feedback, and vice versa.
Write to your thoughts. And even if it's not like full heavy like processing, like, I am a big proponent of talking to oneself. I talk to myself all the time. I sound like a lunatic, but I talk to myself all the freaking time. And it's the only thing that has probably kept me sane through everything I've been through on top of this. I'm a big proponent of talking to myself. And if no one's around, that allows you to process things as if you're talking to another person. It helps.
I agree. I always tell my daughter, shh, shh, I can't hear myself talk. It's like I need to hear but sometimes, you just want to kick that voice also like down to the ground, because it's also when there's the inner voice that can be nice, but then there's the inner voice that you just want to shut up, right? So, but I guess that it depends on how your brain is wired. But I know that for my hand, there's a lot of going out. Like I definitely have an hyperactive brain. So,
Yeah.
but I do need to hear what's like words. So I know what you mean.
Yeah, and even if it's not words, honestly, something that's really been mind blowing for me is you can go online and buy for like $10 a pop, like this whiteboard wallpaper you could stick to anything. And I'd stick the whiteboard wallpaper. I'll just get like an easy a whiteboard marker, and I'll just scribble on the wall, and it saves my security deposit, but also it's like it gets it out, and it's not so secluded in like a journal. It's not so like sophisticated. You don't have to worry about making it look nice like as you do with like bullet journals and stuff like that. Sometimes you get so lost in the productivity loop within itself. Like I want this journal to like actually look presentable, I don't want it to look sloppy. But you can just go on the whiteboard, just whiteboard the crap out of something, and it still looks wonderful.
I use a pencil and write on my desk. And then when I clean, I just, wipe it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, and then too, they have that like chalkboard paint that you can paint a wall like a chalkboard and chalk, like old school.
All that powder, and it dries out the hands and whatnot.
Yeah. Art is a big one.
Yeah.
You make art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, and also like make art, but have the audacity to make jumbled shit and be proud.
Well, that's the thing, that's how our brain works, though. It always tries to make sense of what's happening. Like, even though sometimes, you'll end up analyzing a situation and it might not necessarily be what's going on, but your brain will give it meaning depending on your past experiences. Yeah. So that's why I always say every single human being is the universe. And in order to try to understand them, you have to understand where they come from.
Absolutely.
But, sometimes people will come with history and it's, people are complicated. It's, yes. And sometimes I think we try to take I don't know, I don't want to say a quick, it's like when you look at MAGA, for example, and the way they say like, it's either this great or it's either really, really bad, are those called superlatives in English?
Binary thinking.
Yeah,
binary statements. Yeah,
it's also a hallmark of like that kind of mentality. I was talking about the puritanical mentality in itself. It's like things. It goes back into like their aversion to solutions. It's like shootings either happen or they don't. Nothing like their aversion to fixing the healthcare system. It's like, do you want to live forever? You're going to die anyway. So what is the point? But it's like nothing aside from perfection, nothing aside from defeating death itself is good enough. So it's not worth doing to them.
And that's sad, because it's kind of like there's so much more people can do when they, get together and they just agree, even if they don't agree on everything, then, I really believe in people's ability to, talk to each other, but sometimes, it's just, I think what you guys are doing anyways, it's definitely, you're creating this space. I think a lot of creators on Substack are trying to have this space, to make sure that
I don't know.
They feel heard. They take the time to talk to each other.
Yep.
I've got to find a different method to monitor the chats because I'm missing a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started this just out of whim on myself. I had been diagnosed with a mental disorder, and I just recently, and I thought, well, I'm just gonna kind of go live and like process what I just found out. And it turns out that on that day, Neuro and Tig were in the chat, and they both came on with me, and we had a wonderful conversation. So now they're my co-hosts, and we do this weekly now. So,
Yep.
and yeah, you're right. It's like I just wanted to create a space where we can just talk about ideas, not like, with our disclaimer, we're not professionals, this is not a counseling group. We're not here to, we
And
just want to be able to have a safe space to talk.
even if we're saying you instead of me, I, or we,
Yeah.
It's not meant to be advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get a little lost in the grammar, but it really means like what I'm talking about is this is for me, and that doesn't mean that it's going to work for someone else. But
Right.
so that's why we have these discussions too. It's like, we share different ideas and different things, and sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I haven't tried that, I'm going to try that, or
Yeah, it's just openness to something new without immediately rejecting, like, oh, that doesn't work for me. It's bean souping. That's what the term is. It's bean souping. Yeah, basically like, oh, I don't like beans. All right, then why are you watching a recipe video about bean soup? And it just went on and on. Like, I don't like beans. Can you swap it out with something else? Swap it out with something else. It's like, no, that's just, the internet is a massive place. The world is huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think so many of us got so accustomed to having our algorithms show us like ready-made things that are aligned with us. And the moment something the algorithm picks that isn't your usual route, it's my body's rejecting it. It's like, honestly reminds me of that one episode of Family Guy. It's like with the quinoa. It's like, no, my body's rejecting the quinoa. I don't like healthy. But even it kind of goes back to that whole thing. It's like when you're so used to consuming junk content, healthy, genuine human content feels foreign.
Yeah.
the algorithms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We read very, very bad shit like the Night Party platform and Stormfront and stuff like that. Not because I agreed with it, but because it's a know your enemy kind of thing. And when I first started doing it, I was just like, whoa, shit. I grew up in a community where a lot of people said this shit,
Yeah.
and it started making me more aware of how much it was really out there. And when the 2016 elections, the primaries, and I saw Trump rising through that, I was just like, oh, this isn't good. And then the KKK endorsed him. And one of their things is we don't endorse major candidates because they don't align enough with our position. And then they were suddenly endorsing Trump. And I'm like, oh my God, this is fucked. Because I was aware approximately how many white supremacists were out there, and was pretty sure that who would defect from the Republican Party with him wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound paranoid, but let's just say that, manipulating the algorithm when you're the owner of X, and like showing exactly, because, you guys, they can tell, I mean, anyways, someone in my family works in social medias, and I won't say who, but no, anyways, I know for a fact that when you do the analysis, you can tell sort of like depending on the population who stays where, like, depending on what they think, then you can start pushing the messages to like kind of like, for example, promote Trump and de-promote Harris, like really depending on certain what's the right word? Depending on the population that's in a specific area, like localization. So the tech bros, whatever, I mean, they still have a lot of power, and I keep, from an external point of view, I think what really happened, I mean, a lot of stuff, crazy shit happened, but disinformation with the guy who owns the most popular social network, and then voter suppression, and then what else? I mean, there was a third thing that I remember, but now I can't seem to think. But I mean, just those two things really impacted the election, I found, because we were so surprised. Like, I mean, saying we, like people here that I know around in Canada were like, what the fuck? Like, haven't they learned? Like, don't they remember? Like, what's this amnesia? Like, how bad it was in 2020? Like, 2018, yeah.
Trump was going to take office again in 2024. A lot of my friends were like, I hope not, or they didn't believe it. And I was like, yeah, people didn't believe it when he was first in the primaries in 2015 or 2016. A lot of people also weren't aware how many white supremacists there were. And now there's a lot more of them. And I was just like, it's going to happen again. And so I braced myself. People are like, oh, you're so clairvoyant. I'm like, no, I'm not clairvoyant. I'm just kind of.
No, it's just look at the fact. Like, look at the
pattern.
Yeah.
You see the pattern, you know, and I think there, and also like on the other hand, it's like if you people see the patterns, like, haha, I told you, now you're gonna suck. Well, yeah, we're all gonna suck together.
I didn't say, haha, I told you. I was just like, well, fuck.
Yeah, but even so, it's like this. Being right for me is like I hate being right for that exact reason. I hate being right because I don't like seeing people suffer.
Yeah.
I think there was this whole level of smugness that came after all of this happens. Like, hey, I told you. And then it's the same kind of self-centered mentality that people turn around. It's like, oh, this doesn't affect me. It affects you, but it affects all of us.
Yeah.
And that same level of smugness, that same level of self-centeredness is what got us here in the first place.
Yeah.
It's someone prioritizing their own egos over the well-being and safety of other human beings.
Yeah.
And that's why I hate being right. Because I've seen a lot and I know how these things tend to go and the patterns that are there, they've always been there. And you're able to predict it before it happens, but nobody listens. And when they don't, people start dying. And that's just horrible.
Culture where it's abuse is perpetuated and accepted. And, those of us on the opposite side of that are up against that abusiveness. And, that's why it's so important that we have a kind of support network for each other, not just in like goods and resources, but, just our emotional well-being, which we're all afraid right now. I guarantee you, even people MAGA are afraid right now.
Yeah.
Just our nerves are raw.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's terrifying because I think this week and last week with Renee Good and Alex Preddy, it became perfectly clear that it doesn't matter the protections that whiteness would have given you before no longer apply.
Mm-mm.
I don't think
it's so sad that you should say that. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't believe it. Like, I mean, in the first place, like, just to think like, oh, I feel protected because I'm white, but not anymore. I mean, that's.
That's the thing about privileges is that they can be revoked, restricted at any moment, at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And rights tend to become privileges when people take them for granted. Yep. Rights take work. Right rights need maintenance. They need tweaking. They need adjustments. And when you neglect your rights or kind of take them for granted, then they become privileges. And then God help us.
Well, and right now it's not just we're taking it for granted. They're literally being stripped from us, this administration. So with that being said, we are at the top of the hour. So we should probably plan on our part 2 on this because there's lots and lots more to talk about. So thank you very much for joining us.
You want to sell yourself?
Yeah, go ahead and sell yourself, So.
Shameless plug.
That's okay. Well, thank you for having me. I mean, quickly, I participate. I've been on Substack for about a year. I participated here and there on a few chats, started doing lives, and then it's hard to find what you want to do with Substacks, right? So more and more now I've been participating with the group that's organized with Nick Perro, who does the Sick of the Ship publication. We do a group on every Monday called Chronically Illing Out, because we all suffer from a chronic illness. be that a physical illness, such as we, three of us have fibromyalgia, one person has chronic migraines, and how that affects, both your physical and mental health. So that's what we discuss on Mondays at 11 East. And we just recently started a Substack called Time for Life with my dear friend Beth, who just left for reason we're not going to go on and mention furthermore, because I don't want to get into this. Like I said here, we can talk about it behind the scenes, but the Time for Life is actually what we want to do, is to take time for life to just forget the craziness and discuss what brings us joy. So I will definitely be in touch with you guys to have you at one point to discuss what brings you joy, because I think it's also part of taking care of your mental health.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate you being on. Tig, you want to sell yourself?
Yes. I'm Tig Mansueta. I'm the writer of Tigology. It is a newsletter / publication focused on just all facets of being human, and just unapologetically and insatiably so, and how to build a more human-focused world for the future. Some crazy ideas and points out, and from the net, both science across the board. I'm here on Substack as well as Twitch at Royal Tiger 4510 on Twitch, and Tig Mansueta Tigology on YouTube. Be free to check me out as well. And in terms of Mindhaven is a first podcast coming up, but also February 6th, I have my own personal podcast where I just go on fun fact tangents. It's called Everything in Terms of Blank. It premieres on Substack and all my other platforms on February 6th. On February 6th.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, be sure to have there, and even if it's not so heavy in terms of current life, in terms of that, but if you ever want to know why diarrhea evolved in human beings, and that's all we're always there for. Yeah, apparently, more people have died from diarrhea than any other symptom of illness.
Yeah,
Crazy. You can sting yourself to death.
All right, Nero, how about you?
Fun.
You're fine. We all know you. And I'm Sushi. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you in the chat. And if any of you are interested in joining us on any given Sunday, you can send me, Tig, or Nero a DM, and we'll get you scheduled in. Okay.
Coming on so.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Hang in there.
Yep.
We're still gonna be here. We're gonna be hanging, and we're gonna be hanging together.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.